Hey Team YouTube. I'm going to talk about laminate flooring here real quick. I think everybody knows that putting down a laminate floor in a living room or a bedroom or whatever is a pretty straightforward affair because it's all flat surfaces. You have it on the floor, you put your trim on, you maybe put a shoe on, then you put a transition piece on, and it's all pretty straightforward and, you know, color by numbers. I put in a laminate staircase, and we're going to talk about kind of how to go about doing that, or at least what I found doing some research online, and how I went about effecting the job. Okay, here we go. Hey Team YouTube. So here we are, a laminate staircase. I looked online at all of the looks that different laminate staircases have, and I wanted to do something that I saw that I liked in a particular set of examples. So for starters, what I wanted to do is I wanted to use just regular 1x3 pine boards to go along with the there goes the cat, to go along with the laminate. I'm going to give you an example of what my mop boards or baseboards look like. This is pretty much the standard thing. Here's the front door. You got some varnished and stained baseboards here, and of course this is the transition piece between here and here's the laminate floor in this particular room. I guess all the construction stuff that I need. And over here is we got the treads, and then we also have the risers. And I'll just talk about what I did to install each of these. So if you can see there, each piece here was cut at a 45-degree angle, diagonally like this, diagonally that, and just zigzagged upwards towards the top of the staircase. And I used construction adhesive to put each one on. The challenge is that stairwells tend to, and drywall in general, tends to bow in and out depending on how you finish it. So I elected to essentially just take and put in the 1x3s here, just regular pine board, use a vinyl spackling, a lightweight vinyl spackling, and then paint over them. I've really got my first coat of paint over it, and I do want to sand these just a little bit more, just with a palm sand or something, just to get a little bit of the roughness out. And then each and every single tread and riser board is essentially custom cut and fitted. To give you an example, I really wanted almost no gap whatsoever between the pine boards and the stair. This one's really the only bad one on the whole steps, and it was one of the first ones I did, and I didn't think I could do a whole lot better, but as I went on, pardon me, a little cat fur ball kind of there, I got better and better at it. Essentially, I used a arm saw. You could probably use a chop saw too to get a nice straight cut to begin with, and then I used straight edge to figure out if the boards went in, or the stairway went in or out or whatever, if it was pretty straight, and then I used a belt sander to clean all of that up. On each of the pine boards I also used vinyl spackling along the lengths if it was something where it didn't look neat and nice and have all filled in. I tried not to have to paint in large gaps. So you can see that the original contractor put in textured walls, so sometimes when the pine boards went on there was a fairly noticeable gap. Each of the stair treads is 2 pieces of laminate, and then the seam is right here. I tried to keep a consistent seam going all the way up. I realized that after I had made a number of these steps that I could have had a long board to start with and then a short, then started with a short board and then go long or something like that. But I just opted to go with an even seam where the boards join on every single step, so the stairway looked uniform going all the way up and down. As far as the risers go, those are a single board, and again I took the same pains to make sure that I had a very flush joint on either side and put them down. All of the risers and treads are put in with a fair amount of construction adhesive, and here's a good example. I actually, when I was putting the boards in, sometimes I would rub a little bit of the paint off just trying to put the board in, and they were done in, you know, quite snugly because I didn't want really any gap. And you know, most of the stair treads look really, really nice in terms of gap. And I've already had the stair steps in for a good 6-8 months, and we've gone from summer to winter, and the gap still looks good and nothing is bowed out. You know, the idea of keeping a floating floor is that you always want to have gap around the room under the baseboards so that the floor can expand and contract. On runs this short, I'm not really too worried about it. And of course, the time has shown that having some gap or whatever isn't really necessary on a stairwell. Just as an aside, this Red Devil product, this pre-mixed vinyl spackling, you get, I don't know what this is, like a quart or something. And this stuff is really easy to use. All I've been using is just, you know, a blade to put it down. And it's just so easy to form and to work and to sand, all that sort of stuff. And it is pretty strong when it dries. It's not like it's you know, like filling toothpaste in your old you know, dorm or whatever, so that the it'll pass inspection. So it is quite strong. So I'm very pleased with it, and I would definitely consider using this stuff again just to fill in cracks and build up between the pine boards. Hey Team YouTube, so let's talk about easy and tough. Relatively easy is putting in the stair steps that are going straight up, but then you have to contend with turning the corner to go up here. That poses a lot of challenges. I must say though, I'm pretty pleased with how things have turned out. I was originally going to go in a different way, but here's this triangular piece landing here. That was essentially done with big pieces of butcher paper that I laid down and I taped together, and then I cut out, and then I put that template right on a bunch of boards that were already previously hooked together, and then sawed them up. Okay, so the other thing is that these pine boards, they have to stop somewhere, and this was not a diagonal cut because originally I was going to do something different. And just the other day I put in some pine here just to start finishing this off, and here's the concept that I have. So the house originally came again with these stained and varnished baseboards, and there was originally, this whole room here was carpet. This is actually a peel and stick vinyl plank. It's not a luxury vinyl, it's an adhesive backed, and it is the one that you just stick straight down. It doesn't have the kind of quasi tongue and groove, and it stops right here. That's maybe another video for another day. That flooring type is really easy to put down, and goes down well, and you can put the baseboards back on. I wouldn't say it's an afternoon project, but it's a weekend project with time left over to spare. So let's talk about getting here. I've got a piece of baseboard, and what I'm going to do is over here in the corner, as you can see, this is currently unpainted, but I needed some pine transition pieces to make this work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this baseboard, I'm going to put it in, and you know, obviously I'm going to cut it to length. Originally this was just slapped down over a piece of carpet because these stairs were carpeted, and then I'll cut that to length, and then I'll have this transition. Now my pine pieces versus my baseboard pieces, the baseboard is just a tiny bit taller than the pine, but I'm not going to really worry about that. We're going to go ahead and just let that ride. So moving on. So Team Google, this is what you're going to find very commonly in your your big box home improvement stores, is a kit that features metal. It could be a plastic rail. I'm sure you can look up videos on how to put these in. As you can see, this is U-shaped. You have through holes on the bottom. You just run the screws in. Then you take your piece here. It has a they call it a T-slot molding. This just pops in. On the bull noses for the stairs, they're shaped like a bull nose, and they go in the exact same procedure. I'm going to talk about what I did on my, because here it's just straight. You just cut this with a chop saw or an arm saw, sand it to length, get it so it's perfect, boom, you're done. Let's still talk about those crazy corner pieces though. So right here is a corner piece of it, the long diagonal step in my staircase. Right here, I just used some of that vinyl spackling. This has not been painted yet, by the way. and I just put this in the corner because I wanted to cut a flat piece of laminate. This one does have a joint. Focus! And there it is, because this is actually a little bit longer. What's this, about 8 inches longer than a single untouched board here. And here in the corner, I'm like, yeah, this looks pretty good. I just essentially grated that with a putty knife, and I'm thinking it looks good enough, and I'm going to paint it that way, and we're going to leave it. So here in the steps, what I did, and this is a good example right here, is again an arm saw cut here or whatever you have, and then you could also use one of those a saw that you use for trim. So this is just its own piece of laminate. Underneath this, of course, is the track that's been fastened down, and I did think I used a little bit of construction adhesive to seal these together, wipe out the excess. And so I'm going to paint that. I'm going to probably fill this gap in here just a little more, make it look a little more presentable, really try to doll that up, and we'll see what happens. So in terms of bullnose, again, you'd take one of these pieces here. Now I'm just using a section here. Obviously you'd want to run it all the way across the steps. Okay. And where's my sample? Here we are. So here's my sample of bullnose, and that corner piece, or that edge piece, goes right on the edge of the steps, and then obviously this part here catches in here. So every last one of these pieces, because it's a known height of the laminate floor, and then you pretty much get this flush with your base material. Here I have, this is just OSB, that's what the contractors used. It all goes on really slick and nice. Here in the corner though, I think what I'll do is I'll leave it a few inches out like that, and then I'll do like I did right up here. I'll cut the lone remaining piece. I'll use some tape or whatever, and just get a piece of cardboard or paper to make my pattern, so that when I go into the corner here, I make a saw cut, everything works out good. Like I say, here was a saw cut there, and then just a diagonal cut, and that was pretty much cake. So let's talk about finishing up the rest of the steps. Okay, here in the corner, again, short piece, 3-4 inches of the stair bullnose. Like this would go in here, and then again, I'll probably take a paper, a little bit of cardboard or something like that, and just rough that in, flush that in, so I can make a nice little template to actually cut into the real. The bullnose material, I think, is what's called an MDF, a medium density fiberboard or whatever this this material is here. It cuts real nice on a radial saw and doesn't gouge or anything, especially if the blade is good and sharp. Who's down? Oh, it's the cat again. She a cat. He's a Manx. He doesn't have a tail. That's how he was from the factory. It's so weird. So here is the very top of the steps. This, like I say, is a 1/4 inch of plywood here, and then you have your adhesive-backed vinyl planking. And like I say, this is an oak pattern. It's a Traffic Master, I think, from Home Depot. I like it because you literally damage or destroy a piece. You just get a razor knife under it, pull up the offending piece, cut a new one, and put it right back in, and like nothing happened. So the final bullnose goes up here. Here is my transition, again, between the trim in the house, and that'll go back down that way, and here I'll just paint that white. Like I said, we'll just have just a little corner there that's sticking out, but I think it looks good enough. Probably one of the last things I'm going to do, the walls are kind of an off-white. I think it's called, what, Queen Anne's lace. Here I have yeah, here it is. This is a Menards product, well, Dutch boy. Got it at Menards. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, I'm going to paint all of the baseboards kind of a bright white and make it a gloss to really differentiate it between it and the walls. Just the rise and the tread on the baseboards here, and like I say, transition back into the regular stained and varnished housing or house trim that came with the house. So that is my stair step, and I think it looks pretty good. Hope this helps anybody who's thinking about doing a project like this. I can tell you, carpet hides a lot of sins from the contractor. That carpet piece, the width of it went all the way down the stairs. I mean, it was snug against the wall and looked great, but the fact that there's literally 3/4 of an inch of difference in width between the bottom steps and somewhere in the middle, and then that 3/4 gets sucked back in at the top of the steps. It's pretty amazing, and carpet can hide a lot of things. With finished carpentry, you can't hide that. Oh, and by the way, I am not a trained carpenter in any sense of the word. Like I say, I looked online. I looked at some finished work off of Pinterest, but a lot of this I just kind of came up with on my own. And I'm hoping that if there was ever a future owner of this house, they'll say, "Oh, this guy did a good job," or not. It's my house, and I guess I have to live with it. So, signing off for today, YouTube. Hopefully the weather's going to be nice, so we can get back out and wrenching in the garage or something. Have a great day.